What is up, everybody? Seth Dewald here, co-host of the Dynasty Roundtable, editor at playerprofiler.com, here to give you my 7 rules to crush the offseason in Dynasty. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Rule number 1 is to be honest with yourself, be honest with your roster, and plan your strategy accordingly. I call this the team audit. The first step is to look back at last season. Say, how did your team do? If it did well, what players contributed to that success? If it's Is it a roster full of veterans? Is it a youthful roster built to last? If your team didn't do so well, what happened? Did you simply get unlucky? What players let you down? Or is your team simply just not that isn't that good? Like, what ultimately led to your lack of success, and what should your strategy be going forward? It may be that you need to retool or even rebuild, and that's okay, but the first step is to be honest with your roster so you can best assess the right course of action going forward. If you decide you need to rebuild or retool, make an inventory of your team's most valuable assets to see if it's wise to trade them or keep them. We'll talk about some more rules that can help with this rule later in the show, like talking to some DMing your league mates and keeping open the lines of communication. But it's always best to keep all options on the table, especially if the team is in a rebuild. Rule number 2 is don't be in a rush to make a trade. Take your time and assess the market. A fantasy gamer might be in a rush to trade away veteran players or to acquire rookie picks in preparation for the league's rookie draft. However, it's important to enter into all negotiations with a level head and the knowledge of what your dynasty assets are worth. It's rarely ever a good idea to sell low on a player, even if that is an aging player or a veteran, and it won't help your dynasty team's real rebuild. There is no shame in walking away from trade negotiations if the value doesn't meet what you believe is a fair deal. The season doesn't kick off until September, so there is plenty of time and hopefully 11 other league mates that may be interested in trading with you. There's simply no need to rush a deal in February or March. Rule number 3, make contact with other managers and learn your league mates' tendencies. All of that is rule number 3. A new league year is an opportunity to reach out to some of your league mates. Sleeper has a great DM feature that you can use. My suggestion would be to send each league member a message starting at the beginning of the new league calendar year, whenever that starts for you, stating that you're an active owner and you would be willing to make moves in the off season. Sometimes this is all it takes to spark up trade negotiations right away. Other times, you might get a response right away. You might not get a response right away. However, it doesn't hurt to spark up a conversation potentially and make contact with all your league mates. Also, be nice and don't alienate yourself from any potential trade partners. This can only limit your potential in the league, which could hurt your chances ultimately of winning the league. We've all seen it before. There are some dynasty gamers who make the mistake of alienating themselves from the league because of a league dispute. This could be like a trade that they thought was unfair, or somebody who broke the rules or is colluding or something. Like, from my personal experience, I've seen a few league feuds in my day, and many of them could be avoided if the situation were handled differently. In my opinion, if there's ever a dispute, whether it be over an unfair trade or otherwise, it is always the best course of action to contact the league commissioner and let them deal with the situation. The last thing that you want to do is drop a chat bomb by calling out the trade and potential collusion in the chat, or insulting other league mates. It's just not worth it, because it can only really hurt your position in the league. Like, it could ultimately lead to you being like banished from the league, if that, maybe that's what you want. I don't know. Anyway, the lesson is here: the right course of action is to always contact your league commissioner with any concerns that you might have, and keep those lines of communication open, because you never know who you might be trading with or when you might need to trade with them. So it's always a good idea to keep all lines of communication open and be an active owner. Rule number 4, acquire value, not specific positions right away. There is no need to fill position needs in February or March. Trust me, I've fallen into this trap a time or two, and it is rarely wise to acquire specific positions or players in an attempt to fill lineup spots early in the offseason. Instead, it is wise to keep all options on the table, focus on acquiring value where you can find it, be water, be flexible, be Bruce Lee, and find the best deals wherever you can find them. Don't look to plug lineup holes right away. You don't need to. Rule number 5, be careful about acquiring veterans too soon. This kind of goes in hand with rule number 4, but I think it's separate enough. As I mentioned in the previous rule, it's rarely a good idea to fill specific positions too early. By extension, it's playing with fire to acquire a veteran player, especially if you're doing it in February, no matter how talented they are. There is simply no need to take that risk, especially if it requires giving up significant draft capital or other assets to do so. It is wise to wait as close to the start of the regular season to acquire veteran players if you can help it. I understand that some deals are too good to pass up, but in general, it's not a great idea to acquire veterans early. There are simply too many horror stories that involve dynasty gamers trading for a veteran player in March only to see that player suffer an injury in training camp, and then it's, oh my god, it's terrible. So in general, don't do it. Rule number 6, hold on to your rookie picks like they are gold unless you get a deal you just can't pass up. I rarely advocate for trading rookie picks, especially first round rookie picks. Trust me, I've made the mistake early in my dynasty playing days of thinking my dynasty team was destined for a championship run in May after the rookie draft. I thought there is no way this team doesn't make the playoffs. And then I traded my first round rookie pick for a veteran I thought could put my team over the top. And sometimes, sure, this works out. And other times, the team I thought was a super team takes on some injuries, some players underperform. And guess what? It wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. And now I don't have a first round pick. Once that move is made to trade your first rounder, there's no going back. And it's really, really hard to recoup first rounders, especially if you don't have any. Last rule, rule number 7, stay plugged into the NFL news and notes. Follow a trusted content creator for players you can pick up off the waiver wire or players that you can buy cheaply. That's the best. Those are the best moves to make early on, are deals where you are acquiring players off the waiver wire, especially. Throughout the offseason, it is wise to stay plugged in. Oftentimes, dynasty gamers can add players off the waivers while other league mates aren't paying attention. Also, if news breaks, whether it be a free agent signing or trade, that affects a certain player or could potentially open up a role for another player. Player value is changed dramatically in a short amount of time. We all know this. Use the news to maximize the value if there is buzz around a player you don't think is worthy of it, and vice versa. On the other side of the coin, if a player is balling out in training camp and is receiving little to no buzz, it may be wise adding that player to your roster. Simply put, there's no downside to staying up on current events in Dynasty. Luckily for you, Player Profiler News, which is a channel that we just launched here at playerprofiler.com, has you covered all year round. So be sure to subscribe to that channel to get the latest news and notes from around the league. If you aren't sure which players to pick up off the waiver wire, Player Profiler has you covered there as well. Player Profiler simply is going to be your source of Dynasty content all off season long. But as we know, there is no off season in Dynasty, so be sure to subscribe to get the latest news and notes from around the league so you can crush your opponents and accomplish your Dynasty goals in 2024. And as always, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.